Hi guys, and welcome to the Sunderland vs Hull City match review. So Sunderland played their final game of their pre-season last night at the Stadium as they won by 2-1 against newly promoted Hull City, and it was a very good performance in parts. Of course, there were some negatives that we'll point out, but in general, I was actually very impressed with a lot of players individually and as a group and as a team as well. I feel like the intensity of some of the players was phenomenal in terms of the fact it was just a pre-season friendly, and some players out there you won't be mocked for thinking it was a cup final if you didn't know what the game was beforehand, because a couple of the players out there, i.e. like to Winchester, Dhannoo, Luke O'Nien, some of the pressing from some of the players out there, Embleton as well. It was absolutely fantastic to see that a game of that calibre, it's just a pre-season friendly. You might let people off pulling your foot off the gas a little bit, but some of those players out there, it was just excellent to see. And I was going to leave this sort of little speech I was going to leave it to the end of the review, but really what I just wanted to say is basically fair play to the lads over pre-season, because there's been a lot of not necessarily negativity. I mean, you can probably argue there's a little bit of negativity by fans throughout pre-season, because I myself included at points as well, because of the lack of transfer activity, and the thing is, we keep getting told to be patient, which is absolutely fine, but there's a week to go. We have no full-backs, and the squad is looking very, very thin. And, with a couple of injuries, I still stand by the fact that this squad could be absolutely dismantled with a couple of injuries, because it's that thin. We are wafer thin at the moment, but this is the bit I was going to get to. Considering all that, negativity aside, lack of players are having to play out of position consistently throughout pre-season. There's youth players who probably, if we had signed more players, might not have played as many minutes throughout pre-season, but they've come in, they've stepped up, they've proven their worth. What it's shown is that what we have here is actually, we actually have a decent base of a squad, and a squad that have, they do seem to have this passion about them, and they seem to have this fight about them. We have a side that are full of fight, and they're willing to play out of position. You've got youngsters who are willing to step up and will step up. You just look at like Dan Neil at left back. He's been absolutely brilliant. He's probably been one of my players of pre-season, and that's just at left back. And I'd love to see him start in the centre come next Saturday. I think he's that good. I think he's looked that good. I'd actually generally be very upset if he somehow got sent out on loan or something. Touch wood, that doesn't happen, because I think he's actually been probably one of our best central midfielders, maybe alongside Embleton during pre-season. Winchester at right back, he hasn't looked out of place at all at right back. In fact, I think he's looked absolutely frigging brilliant at times, Yesterday, Winchester definitely been one of those players that treated the game with so much intensity, considering it was just a pre-season friendly. You would, like I say, you'd probably forgive a few players if they, lifted their foot off the gas a bit, but players like Winchester, from even in the 85th minute, he was harrying players non-stop, and it was just brilliant to see. I just thought I'd leave. Well, I was going to leave that little speech there till the end, but I think there's just a lot to be positive about. But I also don't want to escape from the fact that we 100% need reinforcements, and quick. I'm not asking them to rush signings, but at the same time, we've been very, very patient, and we're eventually going to end up backing ourselves into a corner where we're going to have to rush signings because we've been that patient. We kind of contradicting what the kind of objective was, but hopefully we do get signings in. But anyway, let's get into the review. So we get into the game. The starting 11, we have Patterson in goal, we have Dan Neil at left back, Winchester at right back, we have Callum Doyle and Flanagan in the centre. In the middle, we have Evans and we have O'Nien, then we have Embleton, we have Hawkes starting, we have Gooch on the right as well, and then we have Ross Stewart up top. Now, it was actually announced as well before the game, which is even more credit to the players as well. It was announced before the game that essentially that a lot of the players, as well as Lee Johnson himself, they've come down with a bout of the shits. Let's not beat around the bush. They all have the shits. Therefore, they had to rotate the squad, and this was an hour before kickoff, and only 3 or 4 minutes before kickoff was, the game had kicked off. We were told that Lee Johnson wasn't going to be there, so it was a bit of a mess. And I just thought, fucking hell, it's just so typical Sunderland, this, isn't it? It really is. But again, the players had to deal with it, and they did absolutely brilliantly. For the opening 20-25 minutes or so, I think we actually comfortably controlled the game without creating a massive amount, if I'm being honest. There was plenty of playing the ball along the back, holding it in midfield. We're trying these little balls over the top for Ross Stewart, who was such a thorn in the side, he's constantly looking for these little pockets of space in behind the defence. A couple of clashes, because we put the balls over the top for him to run onto, and because he's quick, he's getting onto these balls, and then he clashed with the keeper, and luckily for their keeper anyway, he got getting the benefit of the doubt, and the foul was getting given against us, but could have gone either way. But he was constantly asking questions. The only thing that was slightly concerning is that on the counter attack we did look a little bit light, at the back. Like I say, Winchester and Dhannoo, even though they've done brilliantly there, you can sort of forgive them for the odd mistake here and there, and they were getting in behind every now and then. Lewis Potter for Hull is a very, very good player. He was really asking questions of Winchester, and in fairness, for 99% of the game, Winchester had him in his back pocket, but there were the odd time where Lewis Potter, he just show his quality, he gets past him, he gets balls in the box, and then there's just absolute chaos in the box because that's a Flanagan, he's really unsure. Dhannoo, positionally at times when you're trying to defend the cross, he can be caught out, and you can forgive him for that because he's not a left back. But again, in general, he was very good. But we did look very, very shaky at the back. Patterson got asked a couple of questions. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't tested too much. It was a lot of the shots were straight at him, and he had to deal with it, granted, but he dealt with it very easily, and they weren't the most difficult shots to deal with. The one thing with Patterson, and I'm just going to say it as I see it, positionally, he was absolutely awful in that first half, and he did scare the shit out of me. He was very, very poor, and I'm not going to. And I've said so many times on this channel, I really, really like Patterson. But last night, particularly in the first half, like I say, there was a few times he was rushing out for balls over the top, and he didn't need to. He was selling defenders short. There was a ball over the top for McGuinness to chase. And for some reason, Patterson comes rushing out of his line. He's getting nowhere near the ball, and he's left so much of the goal on show for McGuinness to tap in. But luckily for McGuinness, McGuinness has tried to sort of dink him, and it's gone high and wide. But there was 2 or 3 times where that had happened. I just think, why the hell is Patterson where he is? He shows far too much on one side of the goal. He was rushing out. He was trying to play the ball from the back, which is fine, but 2 or 3 times sold us short. And he was having a bit of a mare in that sense. And I saw a few people online as well that held the same opinion as me. But I'm not saying that is him as a player. But last night in that first half, it was very, very poor. It was quite scary to see how bad he looked positionally in that first half. But generally, as the 90 minutes went on, he seemed to improve in that, and he did look relatively comfortable. But I still think we definitely need a new keeper, which I don't think we're going to get. In my honest opinion, I think Burge will probably be number 1. But getting into the game, continuing as I say, we managed to break the deadlock. Elliot Embleton, who was constantly trying to look for that ball for Ross Stewart, and he's constantly trying to create, and sometimes it might not work, but if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle. It was that kind of thing. He's constantly looking for these little cute balls in, and eventually he does find Ross Stewart, inch perfect. It all starts off with the high press as well. Luke O'Nien smashing his man, getting the ball cleanly, gives it to Embleton. Beautiful ball into Ross Stewart, opens himself up and puts it into the near post. 1-0, brilliant. We had a little bit of a 5-minute shaky spell, like I say, when Hull were trying to get at us, but generally I think we absolutely were worth our lead, value for money, 100%, and we looked very, very good. In the second half, we made a substitute, Evans, who did control the midfield brilliantly in the first half, but we need to try and look after his fitness, of course. So Brian, come on, we reshuffled the pack a little bit. But in the second half, Hull definitely had their spells, 100% had their spells, but we defended well, we were resolute, our pressing game was brilliant. Hawks, I think, was great on the left-hand side, he did really, really well, looked really good. Gooch, it was another frustrating one for me. 1 minute he was taking on one player, then 2 players, then he'd pick out the right pass, and I'm thinking, Gooch is a player who can, and I'll stand by this, Gooch is a player who can tear up League One. But it's whether he's up for it at the time. And but then he'll have one half of doing that, taking on 1-2 players, picking out the right passes, and then he'll go through an entire half of a completely different player. He's running into dead ends all the time, or he'll just hold onto the ball for a stupidly long time. He'll kind of freeze on the ball, and then he'll just lose it in a hilariously easy fashion. Do you know what I mean? And that's a frustrating thing with Gooch. But they do eventually equalise Hull, even though I think we should have maybe gone. It's 2 in front. I would have thought by half time, because I thought we were that good in the first half. But anyway, they did equalise. It was a ball they got in behind down the right hand side a bit too easily. Slid it across goal, and there was McGuinness to make it 1-1. But a certain Mr. Will Grigg comes on the pitch, and he couldn't write it. Well, he could write it, but it would only be in fairy tales. He comes on. We end up getting a free kick on the left hand side. It's put across goal to the back post, headed back across, and there is Will Grigg, who flings himself across. He'd been on the pitch 15 minutes, he hadn't touched it, he'd done nothing as you usually get with Will Grigg, but he just flings himself at the back post, and he manages to put it in to the Sunderland fans that start chanting his song, which was just really, really nice for him to see. And I see people going a little bit overboard on social media saying, Will Grigg's going to score 20, this, that, and the other one. I mean, come on. I'm really happy for the lad, of course. But, you know, for the 15, 20 minutes he was on the pitch, he didn't do anything, really. And then he flung himself at the ball last minute, which, you know, for a goal scorer, that's what you want. You want to see a goal scorer score goals. I'm very, very happy for him, but I don't want us to go overboard now. Come on. But yeah, 2-1. It was a really, really good victory. There's so many positives to take from that game. But there's also the little things, like I say, with Patterson, we're looking a bit shaky. I feel like we need a new goalkeeper. Of course, we need full-backs. I'd love to see Winchester and Neil, you know, pushed into the middle, at least to compete with the likes of Evans and O'Nien. Because for me, on the opening day of the season, I'd love to see Neil and maybe Evans in there, or maybe even Winchester. Because Winchester, I feel like he's absolutely bossed it pre-season. O'Nien's done decent. Don't think he's been our best central midfielder. Obviously, I'd like to see Embleton start as well. There's plenty of opinions. I'd probably go through a preview before the first game of the season. But yeah, I think it was a really good run out. I think, of course, the young lad at the back as well. Again, it looked absolutely phenomenal at times. You know, McGuinness, who's a big lad, he bossed him at times. You know, pushing him, shoving him off the ball. You know, nice little turns. He's so good at, you know, just a burst of pace from the back and bringing us forward from centre back. And he's so confident for such a young lad. It's terrifying to see, but it's so good to see that we'll be having this lad for us for the season, and hopefully just stay injury free, because otherwise our back four was screwed at the minute, like I say. So yeah, a really, really good performance. It was really positive, and it was nice to see the fans back at the ground and happy and cheering, particularly for Fletcher Wildricky. Yeah, that would have done in the world of good, that goal. But like I say, let's not go overboard now. I don't think he's quite on fire just yet. But yeah, so hopefully we do get some signings through the door before the first game of the season against Wigan in a week's time. There's been huge news that come out quite late last night that Jebison, striker from Sheffield United, was actually at the game last night and has been in talks with the club, and he was watching the game last night. And you know, I'm not going to sit and pretend I've watched him since he was a 14-year-old. Do you know what I mean? I'm not, but I have seen the highlights of his games, his handful of games he played for Sheffield United at the back end of the Premier League season last year. He scored that goal against Everton, where I do believe that was this is why I remembered him, is because I'm pretty sure when he scored that goal last season, he become the youngest goal scorer in the Premier League of all time to have scored on the debut. It was something along those lines. That's how I remembered him. But I remember just watching his highlights on Match of the Day and what have you, and he just looked like a handful for even Premier League defences. But obviously he's only 17, 18, whatever he is. He's very, very young, but he comes across as just, you know, quick, and skillful, and an eye for goal, hopefully anyway, because of course he's only scored, I think it was like 1 in 4 or 5 or whatever. But he just looked a handful, you know. So if he can cause Premier League defences a bit of problems, then hopefully he can do more than that in League One, and it's a chance and it's a risk. But you know, we said this about Callum Doyle, and you know, of course, it's only been pre-season. We haven't hit competitive games yet, but he's looked absolutely phenomenal. You know, so we could say the same about Jebson. It's a risk, but you know, someone who's got a bit of pace and strength and ability behind, and to get him behind, just like Ross Stewart does, it can only be a positive signing, in my opinion. But of course, full-backs. Let's get full-backs in, eh? Let's try that. So, yeah, so of course, if they do announce the signing of Jebison at some point today or whenever, I will do a video on it. But for now, let me know what you guys thought of the game yesterday. Were you there? Did you enjoy it? I'm sure you did if you were there anyway. What do you think of the game? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button for me. It'd be massively, massively appreciated. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already to become a fully fledged member of the Sarny Army. But for now, you take care and stay jams.